Hi, Becky. Great to be talking with you today.
You too, Anna.
And I think it's a really nice opportunity to follow up from our in-person emotion SIG that happened over the summer. And we were talking about sitting with uncomfortable emotions and talking with colleagues and sharing ideas about, how to work with this in our respective roles. So I think a good place to start might be to talk about emotion and feeling.
How we're feeling,
Yeah.
the feelings. I mean, how are you feeling in this moment, Anna?
Good question. Let's put it into practice straight away. Excited, actually. A little bit nervous, but that's okay. And generally pretty good. Yeah.
And where would you say you're kind of feeling that in your body?
I would say feeling it sort of in my chest, upper body, and it's like an energy that's sort of ready to go. And I think that was quite an interesting observation, wasn't it, from our presentation that we did, talking about emotions as energy.
Yes.
And the fact that it's giving us information
Yes.
about what we might need and how to meet that need.
And it's interesting that you said there about it, the kind of movement of it, because it reminds me of the kind of moving, the emotions kind of moving through you and how kind of temporary they are and that they'll pass.
Exactly. So it's almost as if we have a good awareness of how we're feeling, that the emotion we are feeling will not be lasting forever. In fact, it will last a short time, right?
Yes, yeah.
And
Reminding
the idea
yourself of that.
And the idea is that it might last longer if we're kind of holding on to it or blocking it in some way, because feeling difficult emotions is not pleasant by nature. But it's just understanding that they all have a role to play in what we might be needing in that moment and how to get that need met. Yeah. So if we're feeling sad, we might need comfort. If we're feeling afraid, we might need safety.
Yeah.
And it's about just having that awareness, isn't it? And how to meet that need in our learning environment.
Absolutely. And I think you mentioned there, you're feeling nervous, but that's okay. I think that's what we were kind of saying, wasn't it? That we're not passing judgment on ourselves, that's okay to feel a bit nervous and not kind of criticizing ourselves for feeling that way and just kind of noticing it, accepting it.
Yes. I think that's a really good point, because how we respond to how we feel often is part of the issue, right?
Yeah.
So if we're responding with acceptance or compassion, then we can say, okay, I'm feeling that way. It's okay. I'll support you through this. The emotion dissipates.
Yes.
We've met the need. We move on.
Yeah.
But like you said earlier, is if we are blocking that movement, perhaps because something in us is saying, I shouldn't be feeling this way, or it's silly to feel this way, or I can't show that emotion in my current environment, then we get a block, don't we?
Get stuck.
And that's often where we can feel it also in the body that something's happening. We can't move forward unless we can kind of release that emotion. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think what that quote we used, the Jungian one, the what we resist persists. I think that was quite a key kind of thing that people took away from that we heard, didn't we?
Yes.
The kind of moving through it, accepting it, having that self-compassion, and kind of maybe challenging the irrational thoughts that might kind of come with those feelings.
Yes, absolutely. I think that's such an interesting point about again, coming back to that idea of a response to the feeling. So what is the thought that's coming in when after we're having that feeling, or when we're having that feeling?
Yeah.
And I was quite touched by people's feedback, actually, that they thought that quote was really helpful. We had a few people say, wow, that quote has really opened something up for me. And, perhaps you might come from a culture or an environment where it was actually more accepted to not show your feelings.
Yeah.
And then you're wondering, okay, well, why is this feeling not dissipating? Well, it's because we're blocking it. We're not allowing ourselves to experience it. So therefore, what we resist persists, and it gets stronger over time. Yeah. And then sometimes our coping behaviours have to change. And then we move into that sort of that dynamic of the CBT cycle, if you like, the cognitive behavioural therapy cycle. And I think that might be quite a useful thing to talk about at this point, because moving on from feelings and moving into thoughts and then going into behaviours.
Yes.
So we're looking at the whole cycle and how that was created, and how having insight into what is a feeling, what is a thought, what is a behaviour, can help people to feel better, because they start to create a self-understanding as to what is going on, what they are experiencing. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a good kind of theory to use kind of day to day, because it kind of encourages that kind of self-awareness about our thoughts. They're not facts. And can we reframe that thought so that we don't have this kind of rigid thinking about it, that kind of narrative that we get kind of stuck in, and thinking about, could I see that differently? Am I making any assumptions about another person or about myself, that critical voice maybe? And that reframing can help us, move forward and kind of, have that kind of self-compassion. And
I think what I'm struck by, so two things there, is the sort of the idea of the self-compassion, which creates space for us to allow what we need to feel, and that allows it to pass. And that sense of space is really important, isn't it? We're sort of feeling what we feel, but we're also observing and allowing space for that to happen with the compassion.
Yes.
It's okay, I'll help you through this. Afterwards we can go and have a cup of tea, anything that brings us sort of comfort or reassurance in that moment, and self-understanding. And then I think there is something that you said that was really important about the idea of reframing, because sometimes when we're having these sort of automatic thoughts that feel relentless and difficult, it can seem like we don't have any control over it.
Yes, and they're negative usually.
And they're negative. And so we're building up this pattern and this spiral that can make us feel quite bad about ourselves. And so I think that's a really helpful concept about reframing, that actually we can choose and we can make changes as to how we are responding to ourselves, which gives us a sense of empowerment in a moment which might be difficult.
Absolutely. And we find ways, if we can, that, the techniques that work for us, and everyone's going to be different. One of those ways that we're talking about kind of processing emotions here, it might be that you love journaling, and, whether that's notes app on your phone or, your journal by your bed and kind of working through it, or, breathing techniques to kind of just calm and regulate, move out of that emotion. You find what works for you, and it can be a bit of try and error sometimes, can't it?
And I really like the idea of the breathing exercises, the slowing down.
Slowing down.
Allowing yourself a moment to just accept and understand what's happening and to feel. Exactly. Because I think when we're so busy and we're so sort of thought-led that we can forget our bodies and we can leave them behind in a way. And I think it's really important to allow a moment to connect with what's happening. So like we did it at the start of our conversation, what are you feeling? Where are you feeling it? How is that for you? And like you said, there are different techniques, aren't there? Techniques in the moment where we might be saying to somebody, okay, you might want to try a breathing technique to sort of slow down the breathing, focus on the exhale, making that longer than the inhale. The journaling as well, which you might do intermittently or when you feel you need to. I think there are those in the moment techniques, and then the things that you can do and explore outside of the moment that can build up your confidence and your skill set in managing how you're feeling and your well-being as well.
Definitely. And I think that's important, isn't it? That we actually carve out the time to figure out what strategies might work for us, and actually giving time to that, slowing down. Like you said, we can be going 100 miles an hour and we don't give ourselves the time to actually reflect.
Yes.
And, connect with our body. It's not an automatic thing, it's a conscious effort, and it takes time to kind of build that practice, day to day. It's not like an easy fix. It's not, I'm going to sit here and breathe, but you're feeling anxious about even, what breathing technique do I use? Or it's actually just taking that moment and giving yourself time and permission to stop, notice, reflect.
Yeah, that permission is important as well, isn't it? The idea of I'm going to allow myself to feel this. So we're kind of putting the critic to one side. And I also like what you were saying about we do have the techniques in the moment, but there are some skills around this that take time to develop. And if you're new to this way of thinking and you know, this isn't something that maybe was part of your education or your culture or environment growing up, then learning about how we experience our emotions and how we can regulate our emotions is really important, isn't it? And it's quite, I think it's a new focus for some people. And we are working with students in our roles as student wellbeing advisors, where we are allowing space for students to come and talk about what's happening for them, unpack a little bit, help them identify what's causing them concern, and give them the time and the focus to slow down in that time.
Yeah.
And I think that what's also quite useful is we are hopefully opening up a different avenue, in that if somebody's coming from quite a sort of academic thinking environment, it's a space where you can bring your feelings, and that's okay.
Exactly.
It's a safe space for that. And then we can help direct you going forward. So if we were to think about some takeaways from today that we wanted to share with listeners, and some tips, some practical ideas of things they could take away. One of the things for me is around emotions as information.
Yes.
Don't need to judge them. We just need to say, okay, I'm feeling sad. That's okay.
Yeah. They're a message. They're giving you information about what might not be feeling, you know, quite right in a relationship, in a job. You know, it's information, and listening to that message, working through it and reflecting on it can help you move through it.
And then the other takeaway I was thinking about was what we were saying in relation to the body and the idea of the body scan.
Yes.
Is that something that you could explain?
One of my favourites. If we find that kind of block to connecting with our body, the best kind of strategy that I've found is the body scan. And it's a really nice grounding technique as well if you're kind of feeling overwhelmed in the moment. And it's kind of being sat on the chair or lying in bed, whatever, and kind of feeling your feet on the ground, and then slowly kind of moving your attention up to your body. And, you know, you might want to clench, you know, muscles as you kind of work your way up. And, you know, naturally our mind might wander to other things, but just kind of notice it, bring it back. Don't judge or be critical about, you know, I can't do this. Just have kind of bring it back to the body and work your way up and notice, gosh, I'm holding a lot of tension in my shoulders or my jaw. Sometimes we don't even realise that we're kind of sat there with our fists clenched or, you know, and it's giving yourself space to stop and feel.
Yeah. That's a really nice idea. And already as you're talking to me about it, I'm sort of doing my own visualisation. And I'm thinking, I think that can be quite relaxing. And just to add on, I think I've got probably 2 more points, one of which was around the observation. So the observation of what we're feeling, acceptance, and allowing that to happen.
Yeah.
And then the final thought was around thoughts are not facts.
Yes.
Which when I first heard about that, it sort of changed many things for me.
Reframes.
It reframes. And it gives us a choice. And it also changes the narrative that you spoke about earlier, that we might have been holding on to as a single truth. And actually you realise that there are other options available, one of which might be self-compassion.
Yes. Yeah, and we can be a bit blinkered sometimes, can't we? And not, you know, and that's when we're maybe feeling really strong emotions that don't allow us to kind of think a little bit outside of the box. And that just, you know, if we're consciously thinking, you know, what might another perspective be? Or if I told, you know, if my friend told me this, what would I advise them or what would I say to them? And that can help kind of reframe.
I think that's a really nice point to end on. It's been great talking with you today.
Thank you. Always.
Thank you.